Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of the Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of our past guests have included Mark Gatto of Scion Investments, David Crow with Axos Clearing, Corey Westfall of Mobile Assistant, and Clifton Schaller with FutureVault. Today, I'm speaking with Steve Miksta, the CEO and founder of Oppty. Today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using our Form Extract API, simply submit your completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. All right, joining me today is Steve Miksta, the CEO and founder of Oppty, a company that empowers organizations to double their productivity and profitability through a proven framework. With a background in finance and technology, Steve specializes in leveraging automation and strategic processes to help businesses in various industries achieve exponential growth. He brings over a decade of experience in the mortgage and financial sectors, where he has consistently driven innovation and success. Steve, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rich. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm always excited to talk to people who are about efficiency. So if you haven't heard this podcast before, I talk with business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. Steve, let's understand your business a little better. How does your company help people?
I'd say that, we challenge people, and that's been hard at times, as a small business and trying to work with smaller business owners, but we really do challenge them to think about and define what they want to get out of their business. And through the process of making them think and forcing thought, right, we really get clear on what it is we can do and what change needs to occur in order for that to happen. So just creating that focus, I'd say, is where we really help organizations get clear on how they can become more productive.
So you're not just walking in and saying, here's your tech thing that's going to solve all your problems. You're fitting tech where it needs to solve problems instead.
Because the tech will not solve the problem. The people in your organization are the ones who can solve the problems. And they're the ones with all of the knowledge and information. And that has to be extracted from those people and put into technology that can do the automation. And, there's so many companies who try to leverage technology. It's not the tech. The problem's not the tech.
Yeah.
The problem is the people or the processes or the lack, the gap, right, between what happens every day and what should happen every day, right? And the intention of defining how we will do something and then leveraging technology to achieve it.
It reminds me of a friend of mine from 20 plus years ago. Every 6 months, he upgraded his phone. This is before the iPhone. So there were all these new innovations and things coming out. And his excuse was, this is going to make me better at my job.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is he's selling tech services and consulting. And I kept asking him, like, what specific feature is going to make you more productive, make you better, make you more organized? And he couldn't answer it because he just wanted the gadget.
Yeah.
So what is the challenge? Is it getting them to actually stop working in their business and work on the business? Is it trying to extract that data from people? Is it getting them to stop and actually think, because people don't want to think? What do you think is the challenge?
All of the above. Definitely. It's a lot. It's overwhelming. And when it comes to technology, I think the natural perspective is people are scared of it, or they think they're scared of it, right? And so they don't approach it with confidence. And this stuff can be learned. And I'm it really, like, my experience is a testament to that. I started off as a loan officer and basically saw these problems and started learning the technology. And 20 years later from doing it more, like, now I have a consulting company. I literally help, like, it can all be learned. And I've had a unique perspective. I think if you go down that consulting route and you start working with a consultant, or in a particular industry, that becomes all you know. And starting off as a loan officer and as an end user, and being able to experience the problems and the pain of, man, I just want this tech to do this, and going through that whole process of knowing what I want and being able to communicate that to a developer who can build it. I mean, there is nothing more frustrating and just and I've been doing that for 10 plus years. And in the process of doing that, though, it's allowed me to develop the skill set of both understanding what a user wants, but then being able to make that translation in a way where it can be delivered extremely quickly. And in today's world, with technology being so configurable, right? Like, there's less and less developers needed now, right? So now it's a matter of, especially with a lot of these smaller businesses, it's a matter of just the tech can be configured as quick as we get the requirements.
Sure. Well, I'm going to ask you a question, but I'll give you some context behind it. And the question is, what makes you different? And some context is, my mom, she's a technologist, and her favorite thing to say was, I'm inherently lazy. I want the computer to do all my work for me. So she had a mindset of trying to get the computer to do things back from the late 80s. This was her mindset. So did you have this belief system that allowed you to break free of the job and say, I think it could be better? Because a lot of people just do the job, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I was originating, the pain that I had was, and I think this applies in wealth management or in any business, right? If you're a salesperson, like, what you should be focused on is selling and building relationships and getting referrals and being the guy that brings in the business, right? But when I was originating, I get the pipeline full to a certain number of loans, and then all of a sudden operations breaks down. And I spend the next 30 days putting out fires, going back in, recalling clients and talking through, like, I understand we shouldn't have to document. This is a time when, all the financial crisis hits and the documentation gets out of control, and, like, you're counseling with your borrower, right? I mean, that's been a running joke in the mortgage industry. But all that's all unproductive time. Like, there's no, I mean, yes, you're getting the loan closed, but man, wouldn't it be better if the client just had a great experience? The loan closed early. They didn't have all the frustration, and they referred all their friends and family because it was such an easy process. And so that's really where I started. I'm like, well, and looking back, the technology just wasn't readily available, and I got introduced to Salesforce and then started configuring it, and then it started to blow my mind. Just, wait a second, you can literally have this thing do anything you want it to do. It's just a matter of how creative you can, whether you can come up with the ideas, and then we'll get into it, but then the people side of it, right? Like, because if it didn't matter if I configured the technology the way that I needed it. It didn't matter unless my team was a part of that, right? They had to be the ones who were giving the feedback, encouragement, and it's their ideas that allowed them to be more productive, right? And I just facilitated that feedback.
Yeah. So you're hitting on something I talk a lot about, which is the customer experience drives adoption. And if you don't have adoption, your technology is worthless to you, even if it's really amazing. So you've got to focus on building the right experience. And part of that I have found is you've got to involve the people who are going to have that experience. You have to know what their needs are. You have to hear their feedback and put them into the process with you to design it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you were doing a lot of that to get them to buy into it.
Yeah. And that's part of our process with the organizations that we work with is like and we set that expectation up front. Like it's not the tech that is going to solve your problems. It's your people, and it's their ideas, and it's their knowledge, and it's their experience, right? And so the feedback, like what you said, like that is the most important thing. The faster we can get feedback, the more feedback we can get, and the more specific the feedback we can get, like the more specific we can design solutions to solve the exact problem that they're experiencing, right? But we won't know that until we meet with those end users. And so many organizations, especially bigger organizations, right? They try to push this change from the top down through hundreds of people, and it's never going to work. Like you're pushing tech that doesn't allow that person at the end user to be productive. And we go and spend 15 minutes with an end user, whether they're processing paper, like they'll give me a list of all kinds, like I hate this and I can't do this, and I spend an hour doing this, and it's like, oh my, so 70% of your day you're literally doing, it's like Office Space, right? 70% of the day, literally doing nothing.
Yeah. I've done a fair amount of consulting and helping people become more efficient. And I agree with you. If it's a top-down approach, that's not good enough. Sure, the top-down approach is setting strategy and choosing the right product possibly, but getting down to those details, the nitty-gritty details are really what changes the organization. And so how do companies do that? How do you recommend that they get that feedback and engage those people, especially when they're bigger companies and it's hard to talk to all those people?
Yeah. So I'll kind of answer the question that you asked earlier through this, I think. But what makes us different from any other consultant out there? And that is really, it's our belief in the people in that organization, because the tech is not going to solve the problems. It's the people. And for us, like, we got to find the right organizations. Like, this isn't for every organization, but as long as we're aligned, or like we're both held accountable, right, to implementing this change, right? It's not you hire a consultant and then say, oh, it didn't work. Like, who are the people at your organization that are going to lead the change with us, right? Who are the people that are going to engage with us and help us define a plan to actually influence the behavior of the people in your organization? Like, we're a consultant, we can't influence behavior.
Yeah.
But your people can. And so, our process and what we call the experience, like the Oppty experience, right, is what really we facilitate with these organizations, where we come in and in essence we're operating alongside the organization, and we're understanding what's happening in the day to day, and we're facilitating these interactions to generate that feedback, right, around what it is that needs to happen. And as we continue to do that, we get more and more clarity on where there's opportunities to, to make change, right, and create better outcomes, and all of those things. But the only way that we're going to create those better outcomes is if the people change their behavior,
right?
Like that's employee productivity, right? And that's, especially in this world of AI, it's the people need to be doing the more valuable work. If they're entering out these forms and filling this information, like you're just throwing money away.
Right. So I'm gonna bring this back. You are an example of somebody who was in a job, saw the problem, said, I want to fix it. I think it could be better. Why is it you think not everybody has that ability, mindset, or takes that chance to try to drive the change for themselves and their role at their part of the organization within these companies? Because you're being called in by management, not the end users, right?
Depends. I mean, sometimes it's the end user who gets like, I mean, I say this stuff to an end user and they're like, man, that sounds great. If only our executive team would be open-minded enough and willing to do this.
Okay.
Then you look at that end user, you're like, sorry, I don't think, who knows if you'll be working there in a few years.
So you're saying one of the reasons then is the management team hasn't bought into innovation, evolution, making things more efficient, et cetera. Maybe they're throwing money at the problem, labor at the problem.
And to their point, like, they've probably invested a ton of money in technology before. They've probably worked with a lot of consultants before, right?
Yeah.
And they haven't been successful. And why? Well, because they didn't take this approach. Like they didn't actually come at you and say, look, I don't care what we do. At the end of the day, like, your people are the ones who are going to make this successful or not.
Yeah.
And let's work together to be successful.
Right. So earlier in a different conversation outside this episode, we were talking about and kind of sharing notes on this idea that people don't always know what's possible. They don't even know how efficient their job could be. Can we talk about that a little bit more? Because I think that's one of your frustrations you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, frustration, but also where, to be where, like, where there's so much value there, right? And where, now that we've seen all of these things, like, I can generate those ideas very quickly, right? And talking with a business, it's like, wait a second, like, here, there's a huge opportunity here, right? And sometimes I'll get out, over my skis with like, here's the roadmap, here's all of the stuff we can do, right? And like, yeah, sounds great, but like, let's get this delivered first, right? So there is that balance between, how much and how big, and some of these bigger things that, yeah, it'd be awesome if we could leverage AI to do this, but that's going to take years to get there. And in reality, the knowledge that will go into that AI, that's the starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do that today by automating this process. And so who's the person I can work with to automate this process? And how do we define success? And who are the users? And then let's get them in and let's turn it on. And like, once that piece is done, we're on to the next thing, right? And over time, like, eventually we're using AI to automate all of this stuff. But it's like, it's extracting the knowledge from the people.
No, that's so true. I was having that conversation earlier with some AI scientists that I'm possibly going to engage with to help us with a project. And I was laying out the phases because you have to be able to put the data into the AI process, not even just a large language model, but the overall process. You have to get that knowledge into that system for it to do what you want to do. And that's not trivial. Let's take a step back with AI, because AI also points out to me, and it's really made it more apparent to me, that there's a set of people who are innovative, who look at AI and go, oh my gosh, it could do everything. Let's make it do everything and let's go try. But I think there's a much larger group of people who don't really understand what is possible, and they're not seeing the opportunity. They don't realize certain things could be done faster, better, easier, cheaper, et cetera. And to me, that seems like what you're helping customers do is see those opportunities, see that vision for what's possible, because they're just sitting there doing their job.
Yeah.
How do you break that cycle for them and help them to see the innovation and vision side?
Yeah, I mean, it takes time, and it takes building trust, right? And delivering on the things we say we're going to deliver on, right? And allowing them to experience and understand, and allowing their people to engage with us and see the value that we're providing, but also start to become more open-minded, right? And like you mentioned earlier, growth-minded, right? Like, it's that mindset shift, right? Like, we don't have to do things the way we've always done it. And so, but to get to the future and do it a new way, like we've got to spend time thinking about it and being intentional about designing a process, looking at the people in that process, defining what their role will be in that process specifically, right? Um, and so much of this is just about and where data can help with all of this, right? If it's the right data. Um, if I look at trying to double production, it's like, okay, well, who are the people doubling it? And then like how many of those requests are we doing? And then in order to do that many requests, how many support items are needed? And then breaking all those things down to mathematically say, like, okay, we can double production. This person needs to do this many of these, this person needs to do this many of those, and like now we can scale.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more in depth on AI. What are some cool things you're seeing clients do to create productivity, employee engagement, et cetera, with AI tools on their side?
Um, I mean, I think we're at the very early stages of AI, right? I think there's and like frankly, I don't think many organizations are in a spot where they can actually leverage AI and create value with it. Like where we come in is kind of in between there. And to me, I mean, AI is, yeah, I mean, it's automated intelligence, but we can get there a lot faster by leveraging human intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I throw a bunch of raw data in and say, who should I contact, versus spending some time looking at the data set and saying, okay, like of your book of business, like let's look at some of these data points and where's there opportunities to get business, right? Like where are their current assets? Where are those invested? When's the last time you did a review? Uh, do they own businesses? Do they have retirement accounts? Maybe they're retired now. Like all of that becomes data points where it's like, holy cow, like if we did better reviews and we actually retained this data of their retirement accounts and we actually tracked whether they owned a business and when they were going to sell it, we've got millions of dollars in future business. But
So,
no one's doing it.
so you're really demonstrating what you said before, which is it's not about the tech. AI is not the solution. It's a tool to use to help you solve problems, but you still have to understand the overall problem. You need to understand what the drivers are of that problem or the solution or the goal you're after, right? Um, it's interesting that you're not seeing a lot of adoption of AI, and I think that a lot of AI adoption is actually going to come through the products people purchase and use. You do a lot with Salesforce, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, and not to say, I mean, we use a ton of AI, right? And to me, like along that same point, like I can learn anything faster
Mm-hmm.
with AI, right? I can do anything faster with AI. So I mean, I use ChatGPT every single day, and we use it a ton internally, and we're optimizing our system internally to be able to allow us to better manage our clients and do all of those things. As as far as solutions that we're delivering with our clients, I'd say like yes, there's more tools and there's ChatGPT and there's things that they can absolutely do out there, but our focus is more on like bridging that gap right between, because like as we're bringing them on, we're getting access to data and information, and like there's very specific knowledge that we don't even need AI.
Yeah.
Like we can already look at it and say like, hey, here's a huge opportunity. We just need to aggregate the data, put it in a spot, and then assign a person to go after that business.
Mm-hmm.
And be committed to doing it, and then hold them accountable to doing it, and ideally aligning their performance with compensation, right? Which, again, all of this is like it's being able to put a person in a role define performance and success, align it to the organization, say, hey, we've got $2 million in potential business here for every, like, you can call it, work as hard as you want, as little as you want, and you'll get, a pay bump if you go over this thing, right? Like, everybody's aligned. That person's now doing more productive work. When they close business, they get rewarded. The organization gets rewarded because we don't know what they're doing today, and everybody wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's leadership and management 101 principles, right? I mean, it's get the right people on the bus in the right seat and be aligned in the same vision of where you're headed. All of that's super important. And so, and I appreciate that you're driving back to that, because again, AI is a tool.
Mhm.
And in a lot of ways, I feel like the way AI is unfolding is like watching a bridge be built. You can't walk across it until it's fully built. And so there are things you just can't accomplish yet in the ways that you want to accomplish it. So it's still not the right solution. And the right solution is the people, like you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's I mean, with AI, like, the problem with all of this information is in order to get a result, you need constraints,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, how are we using AI? Well, but there's a million ways to use AI, but what's the outcome we're trying to create? And once we can define that outcome, now we can much more clearly define what AI specifically will and how it'll help us to achieve that outcome. But if I don't define the outcome, then I'm in this world of AI, and like, it's too much information. And that's, I think, that is literally where most of these businesses are, is you're frozen because you
Yeah.
don't know which way to move, and you don't know what to do to move your organization forward. And so you just don't do anything.
And this is,
Or you get 10 licenses, and now you're paying for, all this money, but you're not actually using any of these applications to create value in the business. You just have 15 of them that you're paying for on a monthly basis.
yeah. And so whether it's AI or any other tool, you don't want a tool looking for a problem to solve. You want to solve the problem by selecting the right tool.
Or yeah, I mean, and yeah, get clear on the problem, right?
Yeah.
The specific problem you're trying to solve. I mean, your product's a great example of that. Like you look at all that time spent, between operations and re-entering this data, and it's like, okay, we're gonna automate 100% of our forms.
Yeah.
That's the focus, right? Okay, let's do it. We're gonna integrate with it. We got all these data points. They got to go into that form. Well, who are we working with to do that? And the technology can do it. As you know, right? The
Yeah.
technology can do it. It's just a matter of whether that organization is focused on doing it and whether they will allocate their people to be part of that process of doing it.
Right. That's exactly right. And sometimes it's about change. Sometimes it's changing from whatever they were doing to something better. And people resist change for whatever reason. And you have to get through that. So having that alignment with here's the goal and here's how we get there makes it easier for how people are going to change. I got to remember that with how I talk to some customers now. Steve, this has been great. I have another question for you because we're going to wrap up here. But before I ask it, what is the best way for people to find and connect with you?
Well, you said you'll include, but email, website, LinkedIn, any of those. OpptyUnlimited.com is the website, and then the email is just smiksta@OpptyUnlimited, and on LinkedIn and search, and yeah, happy to connect and love to help.
Cool. Yeah, you're easy to find. You have a unique name.
Yeah, right.
Me, I have to put like flags next to my name so people can find me.
Right. Yeah.
All right, Steve. So here's my last question. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role today?
There's two people that really have influenced me over the years. Originally, John Bohm was a coach of mine for years when I was on the mortgage side of things. And recently have been fortunate to align with Aaron Belke with Get Out of Your Own Way coaching. And Aaron just recently, this past year, started to engage with him again after not having a coach for some time, which for me was unusual, but it was hard to find someone who understood what it was we were trying to do. And Aaron has been phenomenal in what that guy understands about people and motivation and how people are wired is fascinating. He's unbelievable at it. And so he's been a great help in clarifying the vision and being able to really make progress towards it.
Sounds awesome. I love it when people can just cut straight to the heart and tell you, this is where it is. This is what's happening. This is what needs to happen, and give you that clarity. That's great, man. All right. I want to give a big thank you to Steve Miksta, CEO and founder of Oppty, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Steve's website at Oppty Unlimited. That's OPPTY Unlimited.com. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easier. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for future episodes of The Customer Wins. Steve, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, thank you, Rich, for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.